What up, Lakers Nation? Lakers Nation, salute to you. Welcome back to Lakers Over Everything. I'm your host, LOE, and we are here for the Lowdown Daily Pod. Purple and gold till we die. Purple and gold we ride. I bleed purple. My heart beats gold. It is and always will be Lakers Over Everything. Again, welcome back to Lakers Over Everything. We have a special edition of the Lowdown today. We are 20 games in, so about a quarter of a way into the season. So we had to talk the current state of the Los Angeles Lakers. Man, we got a lot to talk about, so I'm not going to hold you. Let's just dive right in. But first and foremost, if this is your first time checking out Lakers Over Everything, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and also drop a like on this video. Whether you're new to it or true to it, please do that so this thing can get pushed out a little bit. Again, I'm your host, LOE. Let's dive right in. 20 games in, the Lakers sit at 15-5. Now remember, that's what I asked for. You know, when we started the season, a couple of games into the season, a couple of weeks into the season, so on and so forth, I said that the Lakers needed to get to 15-5. That was the record I wanted. If this team was going to make some noise this year, I kept saying that the West is so loaded, you got to take advantage of the softer part of your schedule here to start out. And the Lakers' schedule has been pretty soft. We'll get into that to start out the season. So I said 15-5, but then I walked it back a little bit when Luka got hurt. Remember, Luka got hurt, 3 games in? After 3 games, after his phenomenal start, he missed some time. So I kind of walked it back then, and I said 15-5. Okay, maybe I'll settle for 13-7, even 12-8. You know, I was fine with that, you know, with Luka. But the Lakers maintained 15-5. Austin stepped up in Luka's absence. And then we didn't get LeBron back until, a couple of weeks ago. So you don't get LeBron until mid-November. But we kind of knew that coming in, that would be the case. But still, nevertheless, 15-5, you got to give this team credit, right? Now, again, it is the softer part of the schedule. If you look at the rankings, the schedule rankings, I think the Lakers are 29th. That's where their strength of schedule is, 29th. But it's all good because OKC, who's definitely the best team in the NBA, I think they're ranked 30th. And then the Denver Nuggets are ranked 29th. So there it is. Those are 3 of your top teams in the Western Conference. 3 of your top contenders in the Western Conference, and they've all kind of had an easier schedule. So we're not taking anything away from Denver. We're not taking anything away from OKC. So how can we take anything away from the Lakers? They're getting the job done. 15-5, 3rd in the entire NBA. So it's OKC, OKC, Detroit, and then the Lakers. Shout out to Detroit there, man. I like that. I'm liking what I'm seeing there. Can Detroit win the East? We'll save that for another day. But that's the rankings. Those are your top 3. OKC, Detroit, the Lakers. And they're 2nd in the Western Conference behind OKC. So they're above Houston, above Denver. But they're right there, 2nd in the West. So, again, you have to give this team a lot of credit, man. You have to do it. Again, their schedule has been easy, but they're winning games, right? Their key wins on the season, they've beaten Minnesota twice. So that was a big question coming in. How would we fare against the Minnesota Timberwolves, who absolutely dog-walked us last year in the playoffs, you know, with their physicality and their toughness and grit and all that stuff? Well, the Lakers responded to that. They kind of took those games personal. They've beaten Minnesota twice already. Another marquee win was against the San Antonio Spurs with Wemby. You know, so they beat San Antonio with Wemby at Crypto. And Wemby played well there. And San Antonio at the time, they were looking like a true contender. And obviously they're going through it now. Wemby's out, but they got Fox back. You know, they have Castle and Vassell and all those guys, right? So I think they'll still be a team that's going to be a contender moving forward. But we got a marquee win there when they were, I don't think Fox played in that game, but Wemby did as well as everyone else. So that was a big win there. And then another big win was against the Bucks. Now I know the Bucks are struggling. They're like 9-13, and Giannis is probably on his way out, which we'll get into later. But that was a marquee win because Giannis played in that game, and he had a good game. He had like a 32-10. So yeah, you beat them. So those are your, in my opinion, the 4 quality wins that the Lakers have had. Some of the losses, their 5 losses, again, they're 15-5, but their 5 losses. Obviously, you had the opening night loss against the Warriors. That was a tough one there. You lost to Portland. Portland is a young team I believe that they'll be down there fighting for a play-in spot or a playoff spot, right? I think they're a good team. They're gelling. They're coming together. They're not tanking or anything anymore. So they got a lot of pieces down there. So with Turbo and Jeremy Grant's been playing well, and Shaden Sharp and Kamara and all those guys. That's a good team down there. So Portland, you lost that one. But we also beat Portland as well. So they kind of split them so far this year. So I'm looking forward to those final matchups against them, the last 2. They had a terrible loss to the Atlanta Hawks without Trae Young. So that was a bad, I don't think Trae Young played in that game, but that was a terrible loss there. It was the first of a road trip that the Lakers went on. I think it was like a 4 or 5 game road trip. So that was a really bad loss. Of course, OKC beat us down. That was the big measuring stick for this Lakers squad, but they got beat down. So that was concerning there. But again, OKC is OKC. They're the best team in the NBA. Only 1 loss, 19-1 on the year. So they're clearly above everyone else. Clearly above the Lakers, but we'll talk more about that. So that was a loss. And then they lost to Phoenix the other night. Now that game I want to talk about really fast. I know a lot of people pressed the alarm after that loss. All 5 of the Lakers' losses have been double digits, but so what? That's the NBA. I mean, I'm not really concerned about that. But the Phoenix loss, they got beat down. Obviously, Dylan Brooks went off. He almost dropped 40 on the Lakers, and they did that without Booker, right? Without Devin Booker. Devin Booker went out in the first quarter. He got hurt with a groin injury, didn't come back, but they just kicked the Lakers' ass, right? Now, I'm not too concerned about that. I am and I'm not. But the reason I'm not is because it was the second night of a back-to-back for the Lakers, and it was their 3rd game in 4 nights. So I think fatigue weighed in there. It is what it is. LeBron, he missed that first game of the back-to-back against New Orleans. He didn't play that one. He came back. He didn't look good at all. But with LeBron, we'll talk more about him later. But I still think he's trying to work himself into things. But it is what it is. They lost that game. There's really no excuse. But at the same time, I'm not as concerned about it as most. Because, again, it was a 3rd game in 4 nights, the second night of back-to-back. The thing that I am concerned about, though, is because that was another physical, tough defensive team, right? A team that got up in their faces and was uber aggressive, with the Lakers playmakers, and that's become the common theme, with the Lakers losses and with them struggling. When they do struggle, when they do lose, it's that same thing, which we'll get into later. But again, I'm not too concerned. But again, those are the Lakers' 5 losses there: the Warriors, Portland, Atlanta, OKC, and Phoenix. So, and again, to me, their key marquee wins was Minnesota twice, the Spurs when they had Wemby, before Wemby went down, and then the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis. So, do with that information as you will. But, again, the schedule has been a little on the softer side, but 15-5, you can't take that away. 3rd in the NBA, 2nd in the West, you just can't take that away from them, right? Now, the Lakers, let's get into some numbers here. The Lakers are ranked 8th offensively. So they have an 8th offensive rating, right? 8th in the NBA. Defensive rating, they're 18th, right? So 8th in the NBA, 8th offensively and 18th defensively. They're scoring, 118 points a night. They're giving up 115 points. So their net rating is 13th in the NBA, which is middle of the pack. Now, I think we all expect their offense to be this good. I expect it to get better with more time, over the season. I think that can get better. Defensively, again, 18th. I think we kind of expect them. You look at the pieces on this team defensively, you kind of expect them to be middle of the pack. That's kind of what they are. They're a little bit lower than that. But I just don't know how much better they can get defensively. We'll talk about it. So, yeah, 18th. How much higher can that go up? We'll talk about that in a second. But I want to focus on offense here. Again, 8th offensively. But here's the thing. So, field goal attempts. It's crazy. The Lakers rank dead last in field goal attempts. Dead last in the NBA in field goal attempts. And they still have an 8th offensive rating, the eighth best offensive rating in the entire NBA, not the Western Conference. We're talking about in the entire NBA. Their turnover percentage, dead last. So they turn the ball over more than anybody in the league. And not just that, but the scoring. Teams are scoring off those turnovers. They're getting out in transition and scoring easy buckets. And they're still 8th. So they rank dead last in field goal attempts and dead last in turnover percentage. So just imagine if they can clean those two up. But one, the field goal percentage, they're also 2nd in free throw attempts per game. So that kind of drags down your field goal attempts there because they're getting a lot of points at the free throw line. So there's that. But just imagine, the main thing is the turnover percentage. They're getting up the most, their offense is giving up the most turnovers in the entire NBA, which is insane. So they're doing that, and they're still ranked 8th. So again, just imagine if you can clean those two things up. If you can create more shots, which how do you create more shots? You maybe grab more offensive rebounds. That's the first thing you can do there. Grab offensive boards to create more shots. And then just better shot quality, creating more shots for your guys, Austin and Luka, creating more shots for your teammates. You get more shot attempts up. And then the biggest thing is stop turning the ball over so much. Clean that up. Don't turn the damn ball over so much. And then you'll get more shot attempts, right? So just imagine if they can do those things. If they can clean that up. Again, they're dead last. Imagine if they can push that up to middle of the pack. So if you can go from 30 up to 15th, just imagine how many more shot attempts that's going to create. So those shot attempts are going to go up, and then that offensive rating is going to shoot up, right? If you're not turning the ball over the most in the NBA, that's going to lead to some points, and that's going to lead to a higher offensive rating. So right there, again, that's why I say I believe this offense can get a lot better. They're 8th right now, but if they stop turning the ball over so much, they move up to middle of the pack, so move from 30 to 15th. I'm not saying they're going to wipe out the turnovers altogether because, when you got Luka, you got LeBron, you got AR, those guys, some of their passes are just next level. It's difficult sometimes. So they're going to, and Luka, he has the ball in his hand so much. They're going to turn, he gets blitzed so much, so they're going to turn the ball over. But I'm just saying move from 30 up to 15th. If they can do that, I think they go from 8th to like 3rd. They're easily a top 5 offensive team. They're top 10 now, but they're in the top 5 if they can stop turning the ball over so much, right? So that's something that they absolutely have to clean up, and I think over time they will. Again, Aiden is still new. Even with Luka, LeBron, and AR, that's still fairly new. So the more games they all play together, then I think they'll be better. Of course, LeBron only played in 6 games so far. He didn't have a summer with the team. He didn't have a training camp with the team. So he was just kind of thrown in. So again, there's still a lot. And then his new role, there's still a lot to figure out there. So hopefully, again, as they continue to play basketball during the season, I believe that they will become better with better in not turning the ball over so much. And the end result of that will be an even higher ranked offensive rating, even higher offensive rating. So I believe that their offensive ceiling is like best in the NBA, right? I believe that. And we've seen them when they're dialed in, offensively, they're pretty elite. They are really, really elite. And that's a big reason why they currently sit at 15-5, 20 games in. Because how great their offense can be. Of course, you got Luka and AR there, the top-rated duo in the entire NBA when it comes to points scored per game, right? Over 60 points that they're scoring per game. So, when you add in everything else, yeah, I'm not worried about this team offensively. And then in three-point attempts, shockingly, they're 24th. So they're ranked 24th in attempts. They're not even shooting a lot of threes, right? And then they're not making a lot of threes either because they're around 24th as well. So that has to get better. I think that's JJ, what he wants to do. He wants to shoot threes. We saw that immediately when JJ and JJ's offense. And then obviously when you got Luka last year, that shot up. They were one of the top three-point shooting teams in the entire NBA. So I think that has to climb up a bit. And again, when that does, when they shoot more threes and they start making more threes, then I believe, the offensive rating is going to shoot up as well. So stop turning the ball over, shoot more threes, make more threes. Now, on the flip side of that, they're one of the best teams. They're elite scoring in the paint, right? And a lot of that is Luka driving past guys with his new body. Skinny Luka, he's driving past guys a lot easier and scoring at the bucket. Austin as well, he's able to do that. They're two elite guys when it comes to scoring at the bucket, getting layups, maneuvering their bodies and stuff. Even with their lack of athleticism, they're able to maneuver their bodies to get the best shot angles, just unbelievable shot angles, and get those shots up and makes, right? So, again, offensively, I think they're going to be a lot better. The more they're able to play together, I think the better they're going to get. But the main thing to me is turnovers. Stop turning the ball over. We can't be dead last in turnover percentage and expect to win a title or compete for a title because, in the playoffs, that's just not going to fly. It may fly in the first 20 games of the season, but as we get deeper into the season and into the playoffs, you're going to have to do better with turning the ball over. So offensively, again, I think that their ceiling is tops in the NBA, top three. We talked about it last year. We saw it in spurts last year, but we never fully got that. But I think we may see the full manifestation of that this year. Again, they're already eighth with the flaws, turning the ball over and not getting up field goal attempts and all that stuff. So it's crazy that they're eighth with that. Now, defensively, let's talk about defensively. 18th defensive rating, right? They're giving up 115 points a night. Now, as optimistic as I am on the offensive side of the ball, I believe they can get better there. Defensively, not so much for me because I just don't think that they have the players on this roster to be better defensively, right? I just really don't. You talk about DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton's been great for the Lakers. We're going to dive in a little deeper with him in a few. But defensively, shot blocking, this isn't a shot blocking team. The Lakers rank bottom of the league when it comes to blocking shots, but he's still been really, really good defensively. I think that without him, this defense goes from 18th, probably like 28th, 29th, 30th, right? That's how big he's been for this team. So I think he can get better defensively, but the issue is the same issue we all knew coming into the season is just they lack the perimeter defense. They lack the athleticism out on the perimeter. So that's why they're struggling defensively. Even Austin and AR, they've been solid defensively. That was a big question. How would they look defensively? Well, they've been pretty solid, but they still lack the athleticism. They still lack that perimeter defense. And I just don't think that guy is on the roster that's going to improve. So offensively, again, over time, I think that'll get better. But defensively, I don't see this team's ceiling as high as I do with the offense just because they don't have the players on this roster. Now, there's only one or two ways that you can improve that. Player development, or say three ways, right? First thing is just these guys, they get better as a unit, which, again, I don't think that they will because I don't think that they're capable. The player, you need talent. You can have coaching, you can have systems and all that stuff, but you need talent at the end of the day, and I don't think the talent is there defensively for this squad. The other thing is player development. Well, what players are you developing? You got the young guy in Adu Thoreau. He showed a little flashes and a little bit of garbage time that he played this year. So we'll see if they can kind of lean on him a little bit and he can help us off the bench, right? But these other guys like Laravia, I don't think you're going to develop him defensively. And that was something that he wanted to showcase, that he was a good defender. I don't think he's really showcased that this year. Ayton, again, I think he can get a little bit better defensively. He can block some shots more, right, and do some things. But overall, I just don't think that there's guys here to develop. Rui, he's not going to be. I think we've seen enough of that defensively. He's just not going to be what we need him to be defensively. So, again, I don't think the talent is here on this roster, or the guys are here on this roster to develop. Then the third way to improve that is, by making a trade, right? Which I think that's what the Lakers have to do. I think that's the only way that they are going to improve defensively. Because I tell you what, with this offense, if the Lakers can get to top 12 defensively, flirting right there, flirting on the edge of being a top 10 defensive team, then this team can really make some noise, right? But again, I think the only way they can do that is via trade. I don't think they have the pieces on this roster to booster that defense up that high, right? I think they're going to remain, 18th, 15th, 18th, bottom of the barrel, right? 18 to 2, up to 2, the bottom of the barrel. Because, again, they're 18th, but when you look at the teams they've played, there hasn't been a lot of dynamic offensive teams that they've played, yet alone beaten. So the few teams that they have played who are really good offensively, they kind of struggled against, right? And they lost OKC or whatever the case may be. So, again, I think it's going to have to come via trade to improve this defense. And I think we all can agree on that. I think we kind of knew that coming in. So nothing new here, no breaking news here. But, again, to improve that 18th offensive rating, they have to make a trade. And my question, or a lot of coming into the season, before the season started, some may have said, no, it's not worth making it, because trading means for the right guy, you're going to have to give up the pick, you're going to have to give up the pick swap, and so on and so on. Those assets that you kept, in that Mark Williams deal, remember they gave that all up in the Mark Williams deal. That was rescinded, which probably played out to the Lakers' advantage, because I think DeAndre Ayton is a way better fit and a way better player than Mark Williams is. So, that's me. That's where I stand on that. So I'm glad that stuff was rescinded. I was upset that it got rescinded, and a part of me wanted the Lakers to go in and do it because we had Luka. So I just wanted to see what that looked like going all in. But it all worked out, in my opinion, for the Lakers. I think DeAndre Ayton is a better fit both now and in the future, but we can talk about that later. But again, if the right trade is there, the right player is there, you're going to probably have to give up those assets. Right now, I think that players will become available where the Lakers can just move those expiring contracts. So there are going to be players available, like rentals, if you will, that they can, not probably have to give up a first-round pick for, or probably not even have to give up the pick swap. I think some of those guys will become available as rentals, right? But for a more permanent move, a longer fit, if you will, a bigger fit, bigger move, if you will, they're obviously going to have to come up off that pick. The Lakers only have that one pick, first-round pick right now. Now, in the summer, they'll have more picks. So back to the statement I was making, before the season, a lot of people may have said, no, this team isn't good enough. We probably don't want to give up that draft capital. Let's wait until the summer when you have more picks available, because in the summer, the Lakers can have up to 3 picks available. On draft night, they'll have that pick. They can trade. Well, they have the player that they can trade, but they can obviously draft for someone else and then trade that player there, right? So that's another pick, and then they'll have a 3rd pick available. So in the summer, they can have up to 3 first-round picks technically available. So a lot of people, or some people may have said, wait, let's just see what Austin and Luka looks like. Let's see how LeBron looks. Let's just try to do as much as we can with those 3. And then in the summer, let's address things. But now that the Lakers are 15-5, I think they absolutely have to be buyers, right? Again, say what you want about the schedule, who they've beaten, whatever. They're still 15-5. They're still 2nd in the West. They're still 3rd in the entire NBA. So because of that, I think that Rob Pelinka does need to be aggressive in trying to improve this roster, whether it's a rental piece, right, or whether it's a more long-term piece. Again, with a long-term piece, you're going to have to use that draft capital, the draft capital that you have, right? But the Lakers do have assets. They do have the pick. They do have expiring contracts, which in today's NBA, today's CBA, those expiring contracts are going to become really valuable. Now, some names that may not be available now, they're going to become available real soon, because technically the NBA trade season kicks off December 15th. That's when a lot of those guys who signed contracts or were traded and all that stuff become movable. So there may be some names out there that will become available, that may help this team, right? I'm not going to speculate on who those names are. In due time, we'll see some of those names, right? Because I don't even know all the names that may be available. You look around, some guys who teams acquired, it may just not be working out. So, hey, let's move off this guy, right? So give me your expiring contracts. I give you this player, and we move forward. All parties move forward. So December 15th, that's the date you want to circle. That's when you'll really start hearing about trades and some names and all that stuff, right? All the way up until the trade deadline. So again, the Lakers have assets. And I think everyone knows what those assets are. Rui Hachimura's expiring contract. Maxi Kleber's expiring contract, Gabe Vincent's expiring contracts. You got the 2031 first round pick. You got a pick swap. So that's pretty much what the Lakers have to play with. That's what they have. That's what Rob Pelinka has to play with, right? So let's see. Again, 15-5. I think you have to be aggressive, because if you make the right, I do believe that there is a move out there that this team can make that will shoot them up, as an elite contender. Right now, I have the Lakers in that the bottom of the first tier, top of the second tier, right? And I say that because I think OKC is in a tier all by themselves in the Western Conference in the entire NBA. I have them up there all by themselves. But you don't want to put them in a tier alone. So up there with them, I have Houston and Denver and the Lakers. I think the Lakers are right there with all of those teams, right? I think those are the four teams that right now are above the rest of the Western Conference. Now, again, we're only 20 games in, so there's a lot of basketball to be played. There's 75% of the season still to be played. So all this stuff will work itself out. Some people may say, oh, the Lakers, no, they're not up there that high. Blah, blah, blah. All this stuff will work itself out because we have plenty of time. I always say that here. All this stuff will work itself out. These are just my current thoughts right now. But 15-5, second in the conference, third in the league, you got to put some respect on this Lakers squad, right? And they're only going to get better. The Luka AR, they've shown to really, be be that backcourt, if you will, right? The best backcourt in the entire NBA when it comes to scoring the basketball, the best duel in the entire NBA when it comes to scoring the basketball. That's not going to go down. I think that's only going to get better. Again, we already talked about clean up the turnovers, and something else that I want to talk about, I'll get to in a second when it can pertaining to those two. But again, I believe there is a move out there. So what does that move, right? What does that move? Obviously, the obvious choice is we need more athleticism on the perimeter. So we need perimeter athleticism. We need defense and athleticism out there. Defense, toughness, athleticism, right? That's what we need to do. And if we can get a shooter or two, maybe you get both in the same player, that's what they need, right? So who are some of those names? Again, that'll be a separate video, but just really fast, names that the Lakers have been linked to. Obviously, Andrew Wiggins, I think he checks those boxes. He gives you some athleticism. He gives you defense. He gives you shooting. So Miami, they're not really good this year. So will he become available? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Another name is Herb Jones with the Pelicans, right? Now, he's the perfect fit for the Lakers, but is he really available? Will New Orleans move off of him? I don't know. Will there be other teams interested in him? Probably. So does the Lakers package move them, those expiring contracts or whatever? The thing with that, a team like New Orleans, I don't know how much expiring contracts really do for them because they're not a free agent destination. A team like New Orleans, they build their team through free agency or a trade, if you will. So having cap space, I don't know how much that really plays into their future, if you will. They want young players or whatever. So we'll see. We'll see if something can work out there. Another name, Keon Ellis. He's not a forward, if you will, but he's still a wing, a guard. That's something that the Lakers need. A guard who can defend multiple positions and provide that athleticism, give you some offense as well, some shooting. So he's another name there. Those are the only three I'm going to mention for now because those are the prototype guys that you want to get in. Out of those three, I love Herb Jones because he's young. And I think his upside is tremendous, especially with a winner and winning players like Austin and Luka, LeBron, and so on and so forth. I would love him. But again, I don't know how available he is, so time will tell. We'll have to see what New Orleans wants to do and if they're interested, in the Lakers, right? If they would move him, do a trade with the Lakers for what the Lakers have. So we'll see. We'll see there. But that is what the Lakers need. I believe, if they can land a wing or a guard, perimeter defender, who can defend at a high level, who can be athletic, right, and do all those things that we talked about, I think that really shoots the Lakers up. They're already contenders in my opinion, but I think that shoots them a lot higher than, some of those other contenders, right? The whole thing is who can upset OKC? Which of these teams can get into the playoffs and make it to the conference finals and upset OKC, right? If the Lakers add another guy, a wing defender, get some more athleticism, then I think that they can be that team, right? I'm buying into this team. I really am. I'm giving this team, a lot of credit. And I think that there is a move out there to be made where they're one move away from being, a perennial team to upset OKC and come out the West. So again, we'll see how that all plays out. We will see. But 15-5, I believe the Lakers need to be buyers, right? Coming into the season, a part of me probably says, no, let's just ride it out. Let's see what it is. Let's have fun. And let's revisit this conversation next summer. But again, there are other smaller moves that they can make with the expiring contracts that they may be able to preserve their not their cap space, but their preserve those draft assets where they can keep the pick, and next summer they have 3 available picks. So we'll see how that all plays out, right? Something else I wanted to talk about. In the Lakers' struggles this season, in their losses, it's been to the same prototype defensively, right? They've struggled with big, athletic, tough perimeter defenders. Guys who are big and physical, athletic, tough, gritty, perimeter defenders. Those are the teams that the Lakers have struggled with. And not just this year, it goes back to last season with Minnesota, right? But you look at their losses. Minnesota last year, the Suns lost as of recent, they had those type of guys who can get up and kind of disturb those ball handlers. When I say disturb the ball handlers, I'm talking about obviously Luka and AR. Those are primary ball handlers. Those type of guys. OKC, when they lost to OKC, the aggressive defensive teams, the guys who are going to get up in your face and try to make things difficult for Luka, difficult for AR, the Lakers have struggled there. So I just think that they have to figure that out. And I think they're capable of doing that. I'm not saying bring in a player to change that. No, I just think that's something that AR and Luka are going to have to figure out. And they've been able to do it. We've seen them do that because I think everyone's kind of mimicking. I think that's what's on the scouting report when you play the Lakers. Get up in their face and make them run. Get up in their face, force turnovers, and make them run defensively. Put them in transition defense, and that's how you kind of beat them. And that's how teams have been beating them, right? A lot of teams, when they do that, the Lakers struggle. They turn the ball over. They're frustrated and bothered, right? You get Luka complaining about fouls and all that stuff and not getting back on defense. They kind of get ran off the floor, right? Transition defense. They get kind of ran off the floor, right? So, again, I just think that they need to figure that out. Those two guys need to figure that out, and they're capable of doing that because even in their wins, they've had wins when teams have done that, and in those wins, they've handled the pressure. It didn't faze them. They handled it. The blitz came or whatever came, right, and they made the correct play, and they got downhill playing 4-on-5 basketball. They got the basketball to the center of the court, and they had a disadvantage playing 4-on-3 basketball, downhill 4-on-3. You're sending 2 guys at the ball handler. You get the ball at their hands, and now they played to that strength. They played to that advantage, right? So you saw Dallas do it from the jump, literally from the jump. The last week, Dallas came out and they blitzed Luka, and Luka made the right plays, got the ball out of his hands, and it was 4-on-3 offense. The Lakers are going to kill you with that when they do it correctly, when they don't turn the ball over, when they're not too flustered, and they do that, they get to that 4-on-3 advantage, they're going to kill you. And that's where this team is lethal. Because they have multiple ball handlers. That's the benefit of having AR. When Luka can get the ball, you force the ball out of Luka's hand. Well, he gets it to AR. Now AR is pushing the offense 4-on-3. You're going to score buckets. LeBron as well. When that guy is LeBron, you're going to score buckets, right? So that's where the Lakers can be elite at, And when that tough defense came, when that tough perimeter defense came in the wins, they've been able to do that. They didn't get bothered. They didn't get flustered. They didn't turn the ball over. They made some great reads, and they scored the bucket. They kept control of things. They got into their half-court offense, right? You send the blitz half-court. Well, the Lakers were still able to run their half-court offense, and they scored buckets. So, again, that's just something they have to figure out. That's not something that players are really going to help, because you go out and get Herb Jones. I don't think he's going to change that. Teams are going to continue to blitz. Teams are going to continue to play that physical defense and be aggressive defensively and try to force turnovers. Take some opportunities to really be aggressive and force turnover. They're still going to do that. So Herb Jones or whoever's not going to change that. That's just something that Luka and AR are going to have to figure out as the playmakers. And they're capable of doing it, again, because we saw that, right? We've seen them do it. So I wanted to mention that there. And in turn, that again, that's going to shoot up our offensive rating. That's going to make us better. So, and we've seen them do it. We've seen them do it against Minnesota, right? Minnesota did it all round. Well, we can't say all because it was only 5 games, that first round matchup. But the Lakers, they had that same approach this year in both games that they played them. And again, the Lakers figured that out, and they won both of those games. So they've shown the ability to do it. Even with OKC last year, they showed the ability to do it last year. Right now, remember the Lakers beat OKC. You remember towards the end of the season with Luka, they had 2 games against OKC, and OKC ended up playing their starters. Well, remember that game where Luka got ejected? One of those games, he had that stupid ejection with the referee. The referee said he complained about the call, whatever. It was just an absolute terrible call, and they ended up ejecting Luka. Well, remember how good the Lakers looked, right? The Lakers won. They ended up losing that game, but they won the other game against OKC. So down the stretch, the Lakers could have easily been 2-0 against OKC. They could have beaten them. So they played them really well, and it was the same approach. OKC had that same approach. Attack. Get physical. Use our athleticism and attack these ball handlers, right? And the Lakers figured it out then. And they should have had 2 wins with that ejection messed the second win up. But again, they've shown. But the point that I'm making is that they've shown that they can figure that out, and they can be there. Now, some questions that we had coming to the season, I want to address those really fast. A quarter of a way into the season, best I can at least. Some of the questions that we had coming in. Let's start with Vando, right? Could Vando be that guy? Could he be? We said we need that perimeter defender. We need that athletic perimeter defender. That's what we're trying to go out. And a lot of people, we got him already in Vando. Vando's that guy, right? And I think we all hope that he could be. But 20 games in, I think it's safe to say, at least right now, he hasn't shown that he is that guy. In fact, he's not even in the rotation. He hasn't played, in the last 6 games. So JJ did say he's not written all the way off. He will get opportunities. So I just based off of what I've seen so far this season, whether it be JJ and the coaching or whether it just be Vando not being capable, he just hasn't been that guy. So we thought that hopefully that could be a steal there for us, and he could be that guy. But so far he hasn't been. So I'm going to say no. But maybe, hopefully, he'll get another opportunity and he can be that. Again, that's the best case scenario. The thing, Vando's contract, I don't think the Lakers can really trade that. There's multiple years left on that deal. He's not an expiring contract. 2 years left on the deal. I think he's a negative asset, especially right now. He's not even in your lineup. So right now, he's a negative asset, right? And I don't see him doing anything between now and the deadline where he flips that and changes that narrative. So I think the Lakers kind of stuck with him unless they want to give a pick. They're going to have to attach a young player or attach a pick, which the Lakers don't really have a surplus of. They don't have the luxury of doing that. The best case scenario is he'll get an opportunity, whether it be someone getting hurt or whatever the case may be. They'll throw him out there and he'll return back to what he's been. But offensively, there's just been no improvement. That's been the issue with him. And again, the Lakers are like 24th in made threes. So he can't. You kind of got to play guys who can kind of make some threes, right? That's why we're seeing Maxi Kleber play a lot, because he's a guy who can make some shots, make some threes. So just with the Lakers' lack of ability to make the three, I just don't see Vando getting the call, right? So I don't know. Again, that's a hopefully. Hopefully that can change, turn around. What about Dalton Connect? Same thing. We thought Dalton Connect could come in and be that three-point guy for us. And he was atrocious in the summer. So he's been better. But, again, that's because he was terrible during the summer in summer league and all that. So there wasn't really – you couldn't get any worse. Or that floor couldn't get any lower, if you will, right? He was already down there. So, he's been decent, but – will I say he's been a playable rotational guy? No. He kind of gets out there and blowout time, garbage time, whatever, and he makes a few buckets. So we'll see. But I think the best case with him is he'll be one of those young assets that you can kind of move, right? So we'll see how that plays out. Rui, I think with Rui, you kind of getting what you thought you would get with Rui. Mr. Consistency, right? Again, he's shooting 54% from the field. He's shooting 46% from three. Both of those are career highs. So Rui is doing what Rui's doing, right? His career averages are 49% from the field and 38% from three. So he's going to continue to excel with Luka, with AR, with those playmakers. Now, a concerning issue, the last game, he only had one shot attempt, which is that's I don't see how, the Lakers can expect to win any games or compete in any games with that. You're going to need him to shoot the ball. Again, he's shooting 46% from three, and it's not like he's only jacking up one or two shots. No, we need him to shoot. So that's unacceptable. I don't know what that was, if it was just fatigue or if it was just a lack of ball movement, whatever, but we know that they're capable. We know that they're capable of moving the ball. We know we have the elite playmakers who can do that and create those shots for Rui. So we got to figure that out. That can't be the case anymore. One shot attempt, that's absurd. And that's totally unacceptable. So you can't have that, right? Now, defensively, again, Rui just there's been nothing there. He hasn't added that part to his game, right? Even rebounding the basketball with that big body. Again, he only had one shot attempt the other night. 0 points, by the way, one shot attempt, but he also only had one rebound. So with that big body, that's been one of my biggest critiques on Rui. You got that big-ass body. Get that big-ass body down there and grab some boards, man. Grab some boards. And again, he's just not really doing that this year. So that's, to me, as great as he's been shooting the basketball, I would love to keep Rui. But I think a lot of people, they're in the same sentiment. They want to see Rui move to the bench. Really fast, let me address that. Moving to the bench for who? Like, who are you starting in Rui's place, right? Now, on paper, in theory, that sounds great. You want to move Rui to the bench where he can have more freedom scoring the basketball. He can kind of level out that second unit offensively, right? Which can, in turn, keep Luka on the bench a little bit more, get him some rest. Same thing with AR, LeBron, whatever, and kind of create or take advantage of the mismatches that Rui can have with that second unit. But there's not a guy on that bench who can move into the starting lineup. Now, obviously, everybody's clamoring for Marcus Smart to be that guy. But really fast, one of the big issues coming in with Marcus Smart was his health. That Marcus Smart, the 14 games that he's played in, he's been tremendous. But in some of those 14 games, he hasn't been able to make it to the finish line because of injuries, right? He's missed the last couple of games. His third straight game he's missed. 3 straight consecutives. Dallas, New Orleans, Phoenix. He's missed all 3 of those games due to injury. So that's my issue. And that was the issue coming in. How healthy can he be? Can he remain healthy enough to be a starter? When he's played, he's been a tremendous fit. He's been an impact player. He's had the highest plus minus, right? And he's made winning plays. Defensively, he's hit, knocked down threes and all that. He's been great. But again, it's just his age and his body, all that wear and tear on his body. How healthy can he be throughout the season? And if we put him in the starting lineup, that's an even bigger role. So if he's been able in the limited capacity that he's had so far, if you're asking him to do more offensively or more as a starter, how does that play out, right? How you're giving him an even bigger role with the injuries. How does that play out? So I think best case scenario is to trade for someone who can walk into that starting spot at the 3, right? Who can replace Rui there. If you're able to do that with keeping Rui and you got Rui coming off the bench, I'd love that. I think that's your best case scenario, is to add to Rui, add to this team, add to, having Rui still, as opposed to having to give him up and trade, but that just, I don't know how possible that is. We'll have to wait and see. But again, so Marcus Smart, in theory, I'd love him starting, but I just don't know if that's the best move because of his injury concerns, right? And I think we want Marcus Smart come April and May and June, right? If the Lakers want to be playing deep into June and so on and so forth, all of that, I think Marcus Smart is going to have to be a big piece of that, right? So I want to try to keep him as healthy as possible. And I just don't know if throwing him into the starting lineup and asking him to play 30 minutes a night, if you can really do that. But I love Smart, right? But again, outside of him, there's no one else that you can really start. Vando's not that guy. I think coming to the season, I thought Vando could be that guy. But as of right now, no, he's not even getting any playing time. So I don't see how he goes from that to being a starter. I don't see that happening at all. Jake LaRavia, I don't think you can start him either. And that was another question, big picture question coming in. How would he fit in? Again, he just hasn't been there as of yet. Again, hopefully with time, more and more time, we can get more out of him. And maybe, we'll see if he can be a guy who can be a potential starter. But right now, I don't think so. I think he has to come off the bench. I don't think if the Lakers want to be contenders, true contenders, I don't think he can be that starter at that small forward spot. So again, a lot of guys are saying move Rui to the bench, but I don't see a viable replacement for him. So I think Rui remains, If Smart was healthy, then yeah, do that. If Vando was the Vando of a couple of years ago when we first got him, then yeah, do that. But no, I just don't see that there, right? So that was a big question about Rui. A big question about LeBron James. Let's talk about him really fast, right? Now, he's only played in 6 games. The Lakers are 5-1 with him in those 6 games. But again, LeBron didn't have, he's really 6 games in. He's really what? In a regular year, without the injuries and without missing everything, right? That he's really out just now starting his season. Preseason, you're going to play a handful of games. We know LeBron ramps it up as the season goes on. So I think he just needs more time, right? We have to give him enough grace. He's 43 years old, 23 years in, whatever it is. It's so much I lose track of the numbers. I just think we need more time there to see how that looks. But I think whatever role the Lakers need LeBron to play, he's capable of playing. He's that smart. He's that talented. And that's kind of shown in the 6 games. Now, I'm going to be honest. The Phoenix game, he looked absolutely terrible. He looked bad all the way through. He looked really bad. He kind of struggled to continue that streak of double-digit points, double-digit scoring, he had to play, deep into the fourth quarter in a blowout to get that, right? So he looked really, really bad offensively, defensively, even as a playmaker. He was fumbling and stumbling around. But, again, that's just because he hasn't played a lot, right? And he's older and playing a new role, all that stuff. So I'm not mad. I'm not, it is what it is. I'm not mad at LeBron. I think the Lakers are better with LeBron. Even with LeBron last year, I think he's taken a big, fall off from what he was last year. Last year, he was great. He was the first team guy, all that stuff. Outside MVP guy, favorite, or whatever the case may be. All team NBA, all that stuff, right? I think he's taken a big fall off from there. But again, it's hard to say that because it's only been 6 games. So I think we just have to give him more time and see how that looks. But even his role, I think his role is much smaller. His role is not going to be what it was last year. Now, moving into the playoffs and all that role will become bigger. And those LeBron minutes and his contribution will become bigger on the bigger stage, right? So we'll see. We'll see how that all plays in. But I want LeBron on this team because I don't see who's replacing LeBron. Like right now, if you sent LeBron home like the Clippers did Chris Paul, which will never happen, by the way, but I'm just saying, if you wipe LeBron off, who's the guy that's replacing him? That guy isn't on this roster, right? Even with the trade, it's impossible. This is the big thing. Again, I'm fine with LeBron, the player. I'm fine with LeBron right now. The thing that I'm not fine with, or the thing that bothers me at night when I go to bed, is the fact that we're paying LeBron $52 million. That's the bat. Now, I think this is the final year that the Lakers will do that. But that's the issue, because that $52 million could be used to help this team in so many other ways. But it is what it is. It is what it is. We're not getting out of that. We're not paying him. Again, you're not going to trade LeBron because of that higher salary. You're just not going to do that. So he's here, and I'm fine with him being here. I think that will continue to work itself out. So those are my thoughts on LeBron. I think the Lakers need LeBron because they don't have anyone else. And then also, I think who's that anyone else? If you did have someone else, are they going to be better than LeBron? I just don't think so. So I think over time that'll look better. The first 5 games he looked good. He was fitting in. I'm not concerned about him fitting in. He's that good. He's that great of a player. He's that smart of a player where he can fit in. Now, all the extras with LeBron, that's what I don't like, but we can save that for another. Like him the other night, talking to the Suns bench when they're trying to get him involved into a play. He doesn't even see it. JJ has to burn the timeout, all that stuff, right? And the passive aggressiveness, all that. But again, we're not going to get into that today. But I think he'll get better. Other things, DeAndre Ayton, I think that was a big question coming in, and that question has been answered. Does he fit? Absolutely. Hell yeah, he does, right? He's been tremendous, and he's becoming my favorite guy on this team. I'm just loving what he's doing, right? He's giving you 20 and 10 consecutively, right? Double-double. He's doing everything. He's getting the easy buckets. He's the pick and roll with both Luka and Austin, right? It's been lethal. In fact, with him, the pick and rolls that he's been involved in, it's been the best in the NBA, So I think that's going to continue to get better. They're going to continue to figure that out even more. So absolutely. That was a question coming in. Absolutely. I think he's showing that he can be the future of the center, not just a one-off, not just a rental this year, but a guy that you may want to pair with Luka and AR moving forward for the long haul. And then also, let's throw Jackson Hayes in that. That was another question a lot of people are concerned that a lot of people had. Is Jackson enough? Is he good enough to be the backup? Do you need to go out and get another backup? I think no. I think that's more of a luxury now. If you do go out and get a backup, another backup big, that's more so a luxury as opposed to a necessity, right? I think Jackson's been that good, which I kind of figured he would be, not as my starter, but as my backup big coming off the bench. I think he's been there. So again, if you go out and get another guy, whether it be via trade, a guy thrown into a trade, or a guy that's a buyout, later on in the season. A guy, I think that's more so a luxury. It's no longer a necessity. So the center spot, I'm happy there with Aiden and with Hayes, and even with Maxi Kleber, right? Another guy who can stretch the floor, all that stuff. So I like that rotation there. So yes, I think the Lakers, they hammered it. They did that. I think that's working. We talked about Smart. He's been an impact player, but his availability, we have to wait and see how that looks. And then the final big question that we all had was AR and Luka. How does that look? Can that work? Absolutely yes. Hell yeah. Just like we said with Aiden, it's worked, right? Even defensively, let's touch on that first. They've been good defensively. They've been decent defensively. I think they're fine defensively, right? The Lakers have not lost games, or the Lakers have not been struggling because of their defense. That was the main issue. How would they look defensively? I think that the Lakers need to find some more pieces to put around them defensively, which we already spoke about. A wing defender, or, a guard, whatever the case may be. We spoke about that already. I still think that they need to do that, but I think those two have been fine defensively. Again, they haven't lost games because of that. So, and offensively, again, they've been the best pairing in the entire league. But 63 points a night they've been scoring. That was before the Phoenix game. So that may have taken a small dip, but before that Phoenix game, they were first, 63 points. And second was Jokic and Murray at 53 points, right? So the gap is big. the gap was really, really big. You're talking about 10 points there. So they're fine. I'm fine with them. In fact, I'm fine with them being the pairing of the future, right? If we keep AR, give AR his money, and let's do that, and let's roll with those two. That's how great they've been. And then even in Luka's absence, AR steps right on in. So I'm very, very impressed about AR, right? And I think you got to pay him, but I think that pairing is fine. Again, I think you need to put more pieces around them. At first, it was just, for me, it was just Luka. Build around Luka, build around Luka, build around. But now I'm leaning towards building around both of those guys. So, again, those are some of the big picture questions, I guess. Now, again, we still have a lot more time to figure all that stuff out. But right now, I'm very happy with some of those questions. I'm very happy with those two in particular, right? So let's see what the Lakers do. Again, December 15th, that's a couple of weeks away. That's when trade season really kind of kicks off. So we'll see if they make a move. But again, at 15-5, I think they need to be buyers. Now, the final thing that I wanted to talk about as we get out of here is AR. AR has been tremendous, man. Absolutely tremendous. He is scoring, 28 points on the season, which is crazy. 28 points on the season. Just under 6 rebounds and just under 7 assists. So those are the numbers that he's giving you. And that's alongside Luka Doncic. And when Luka is out, he takes those numbers even higher. We've seen him drop a 50-piece. We've seen him score a 40-piece. We've seen what he's done. So pay that man. Right now, Luka is leading the NBA in scoring. He's averaging 35 points per night, 35 points per game. He's number one. Second is SGA, the reigning MVP. He's at, just under 34 points a night. Third is Tyrese Maxey, 32.5 points a night. Fourth is Giannis, 30.6, and Spider Mitchell, Donovan Mitchell, he's at 30.6. Well, guess who's also in the top 10? At 10 is AR with his 28 points. So you got 2 top 10 scorers in the entire league. So that, again, that just goes to how great that duo is and how much that duo works. Right, 2 top 10 scorers, that's going to put you in a position to win games. And you go back to what we opened the show with about the Lakers being 8th offensively with all the turnovers and all that stuff you say, and then 18th defensively. Dead last in turnover percentage, dead last in shot attempts. So some may say, oh, well, that 15-5 record is a fluke, right? There's no way that they should be that high when you factor in their 18th offensive, their dead last in turnover percentage. No, it's not a fluke because you got Luka and you got AR. So they're going to allow this team a lot of grace. They're going to cover up a lot of mistakes, and again, when they're 2 top 10 scorers in the league, that's going to cover up a lot of those bad things, right? So again, if you could clean up some of those bad things, I think this team is even a lot better. They're a lot better than what they are, and that's totally fine. It's totally fine to be where you're at a quarter into the season. This is where you want to be. As a potential championship squad, this is where you want to be. A quarter of a way through the season, or a quarter of a way into the season, it's okay to be right here. It's okay to have stuff to figure out, and I think they will figure that stuff out. That's why I think this team's ceiling is even higher. Now, I don't think it's a fluke, in spite of turning the ball over so much, in spite of, not getting up shots, in spite of all that, I think the 15 record is legit. And I think it could have been even better than that, That Phoenix game, if the Lakers were more dialed in, they weren't so tired. That Atlanta game that they lost, that was a terrible loss. That first Portland loss, again, I think Portland's a good team. I'm high on Portland, I am. But that's the game that they could have won. So those are 3 games right there that the Lakers could have won. And instead of 15-5, we could be talking about 18-2. So I could easily see them being that in spite of everything. And then you got to factor in all the injuries. The Lakers have had a ton of injuries this season, right? They didn't get LeBron back until mid-November. Luka missed a lot of games. And not just those guys. Guys like Rui and Smart and a lot of these role players, they've missed some time. So in spite of all that, 15-5. So it's not a fluke in my opinion. And I could easily see this team at 18-2. We're raving about the 19-1 start from the defending champs. Well, I could see the Lakers being 18-2. So, again, it's not a fluke to me. But back to the point I was trying to make. I was talking about AR, and I got sidetracked, got excited about this team and the potential of this team. But AR is worth the money. Again, I think, and I'll make an entirely separate video about this. I talked about it, hinted at it before. AR might be playing his way into a max contract, man. He just might be. He just might be playing his way into a max contract because I don't think what he's doing is a fluke. I think this is who AR is. I really do. He's gotten better every single year. Every single year he's gotten better. From undrafted to today, 2025, his 5th year, he's gotten better each and every year, right? And we all know that he's going to get a big contract, but he may be playing his way into a max. Let me pull up the 2021 draft class. That's when AR was drafted, right? Well, he wasn't even drafted. He was an undrafted free agent, but he's a part of that draft class. The number 1 overall pick was Cade Cunningham. And I think that he's shown to be the best player out of that draft class. So that was correct. But after Cade, AR might be the next guy in there. But the rest of the draft class, Jalen Green, he was the 2nd overall pick. Who are you taking, AR or Jalen Green? Houston shipped Jalen Green out so fast. Now, granted, it was for KD, but, we saw his play in the playoffs. They shipped him out so fast. So I'm taking AR there, right? Evan Mobley, he was 3rd in that draft class. Evan Mobley, he's been great there, but he's the number 2 in Cleveland. So you look at him as number 2 in Cleveland, and you look at you look at AR as a number 2 in LA. He's been much more impactful. Now, of course, Evan Mobley, he's a big that gives you what he gives you on the defensive end. So yeah, you got to factor that in. Offensively, AR's numbers have been better, but defensively, he's the reigning DPOY for a reason. He's tremendous defensively, right? And he's going to aid to their success. But who's a better team, Cleveland or the Lakers? I think the Lakers are a better team. And to be honest, I think Cleveland is a deeper team, but I think the Lakers are the better team. So there, if you want to take Evan over AR, I understand it. I'm not going to argue with you there, but there's an argument to be made on the reverse of that, on the flip side of that, taking AR over Evan Mobley, right? Scotty Barnes, he was also in that draft class. He was the next selection. Scotty Barnes has been playing great in Toronto, but I'm taking AR for him. Josh Giddey, that's an important name there. He was sixth. Well, who was fifth? Fifth in that class was Jalen Suggs, right? Suggs is a good player, but come on. Like, that's not even a question. AR over him all day. Josh Giddey, the sixth pick, same thing. I think you're taking AR. And Josh Giddey's been playing really, really well since he was traded to Chicago. Even last year, he had them in the play-in tournament, right? He's been playing very well. He's been filling up the stats. I mean, this year, he's 20, 10, and 9. That's what he's doing. 20 points a night, 10 rebounds, 9 assists. So he's damn near averaging, or he's averaging a triple-double, right? And he's shown, he surprised me because I didn't think he was as good as he is. But I'm still taking AR over him. Seventh in that draft class was Jonathan Kuminga, right? That's not even a question. Now, eighth was Franz Wagner. He was the eighth selection in that 2020. And Franz is good, right? Now, he's sharing the stage over there with Paolo. So you say Paolo is the one guy. He's the one there. But I think Franz, instead of being the 2 or Paolo being the A instead of Franz being the B, I think is 1A and 1B there. So I think both of those guys are really, really good. In fact, since Paolo has been out due to injury, that team has been a lot better record-wise. And that's being led by Franz, right? So Franz is really, really good, man. He is really, really good there. Now, I think they're better with Paolo, but I think Paolo this time, I think he's kind of having to see where he fits in, as he's injured. I think he's reevaluating things and seeing where he fits in there, because I think they have to change the way they play a little bit, because Franz has been that good and they've been that much better with Franz in a bigger role. So I'm not saying Paolo has to take a back seat. I'm not saying that at all. They need Paolo to do anything, and the East is wide open. So why not Orlando? With those guys, and you got Bane there. He's been playing better as well. It was kind of a rocky start, but he's been playing better since Paolo's been out. So again, I think Paolo just has to make a few adjustments there for them to maximize their potential there. But he's another name that was taken in that draft class, 8th overall. And then after him, some other names, Sengun, big Sengun, baby Jokic in Houston. He's another name that was taken there. So I think he's really good. But after that, you got guys like Herb Jones, who we talked about, Cam Thomas, Davion Mitchell in Miami, Trey Murphy III, Cam Thomas, I already mentioned him. But those are the big names that were a part of that draft class. And to be honest, I think the only guys who you can argue that are better, right, than AR, it's Cade, Mobley, you can throw his name in there, Franz Wagner, and Sengun. I think those are the only 4 bona fide names so if you had to redo that draft class, I think those are the only 4 guys that I'm picking above AR, 5 years later, if you had to redo that draft class, or 4 years later, if you had to do that draft class. Those are the only 4 guys. And all 4 of those guys got max contracts, right? They got their rookie max contracts. Cade got the max. Mobley got the max. Franz Wagner got the max. Sengun got the max. They all got rookie max extensions, right? So when you pair those guys alongside the stats of, and AR's had better stats than all those guys. So when you pair the stats, I think, again, he may play himself into a max contract. And to be honest, if he continues to play the way he's playing and the Lakers continue to have success. Now, there's a lot of season left to go. 75% of the season to go. Plus the playoffs. He has to prove himself in the playoffs, because that's where the true measuring is going to come in, what he does in the playoffs. If he plays at this level, which I think he's capable of doing, I'm not mad at giving the man a max contract. I think he's earned it, right? He's earned it. So we'll see. Again, this will all play itself out. Time will tell. But I'm just saying, man, AR is right there. He's up there with Cade. He's up there with the Franz Wagner and Evan Mobley and Sengun, and some may say they'll take him over, a Sengun or Mobley. Now Mobley, again, he's a defensive player of the year, so he's both sides. But Sengun doesn't give you much defensively. He's a big body, right? But yeah. Yeah, again, Jalen Green was 2. I think, I'm taking him all day, every day. I think some people may say Cade Cunningham is the only guy. Cade is on the cusp of superstardom, right? I think he's right there, and he can be a superstar. So, we'll see how this all plays out. But I got AR right up there. The final 2 things that I want to talk about, not so much Lakers related, but Chris Paul, the way the Clippers did him, absolutely terrible. It's just showing how bad that franchise is, and I think they're climbing the ranks to being one of the worst franchises in sports. Not just in the NBA, but in all of sports, right? First of all, they haven't won anything. Second of all, the way they do their players, right? Blake Griffin, who signed a deal with the Clippers, he signed a 4-year, 5-year deal, right? $170 million. 6 months after he signed that deal? He signed that deal because he wanted to retire a Clipper. 6 months, 6.5 months, whatever it was, after signing that deal, they traded him to Detroit. So look how they do their players. Chris Paul, who came back. He came back and signed with the Clippers so he could retire with the Clippers. They let the man go overnight. That's how they're treating. Probably their 2 biggest, you got Kawhi there too, but 2 of their 2 biggest stars that they've ever had in franchise history. Look how they did those guys. And with Kawhi, probably their biggest franchise guy, their biggest star, they're not going to win anything with him, right? Nothing. They've done nothing with him. Paul George, they got him in the deal, and what? He left for nothing. They didn't get anything out of that. The SGA debacle, they could have had SGA. Look what SGA is, right? MVP. They moved on. They traded him and all that. Well, he went out and won a championship. He's leading the franchise. Won a championship and won an MVP. So it's just showing how bad they are. It's just showing how bad Lawrence Frank is. It's showing how bad Bomber is. He's just the loudest mouth in the room, but there's nothing to back that up except a stadium, an arena. That they should have built that arena in Seattle or somewhere else and just started off there. They're just bad. They're bad. They're cursed. They're bad. And here we are with Chris Paul, another blow and another just terrible thing, right? So there's that. And then the other thing is Giannis. So it's official. They're going to meet. Giannis and his agent, they're going to meet with Milwaukee management and discuss the future, which probably means he's on his way out. Now, last year, I said it. I didn't think that he would be moved. I think he would start the season. But the closer you get to that 2027, where he has an out, then and again, they're 9-13 and an Eastern Conference is wide open. They're not in the mix of that right now, and I don't see that changing. They tried to get a guy in there. They tried to get Dame in there and others in there, and it's just not working. Dame's obviously gone. But that didn't work, and it's just not working. So I think it's time, man. And this isn't speculation because it's being reported that he asked to be traded to the Knicks. He asked that, right? In August. That's true. He asked to be moved to the Knicks, and so that tells you right there. That tells you a couple of things. One, he's open to being moved, and 2, he's open to being moved to a big market. Right now, how does this play into the Lakers' favor? I think I'm going to say this. I think the only way that the Lakers get Giannis is if he goes to Milwaukee and says he wants LA. I do believe that wherever Giannis wants to go, that the Bucks are going to play ball. They're going to try to honor that request. I think that's going to happen. It's not going to be like one of those Kawhi situations or whatever where they just ship him, to Siberia, which ended up working. He won a title and then he got paid. It's not going to be one of those situations. Giannis delivered a title there. I think that they're going to honor his request wherever he wants to go. So I believe that's the only way that the Lakers land him. If he says Lakers, that's the team. That's where I want to go. So let me say that first and foremost. Now, what does a trade like that look like? I think Austin has to be included in that deal. I just spoke so highly of Austin, but if Giannis is available, by all God, you got to go out and do that. If you can pair Giannis with Luka, yeah, you got to do that. You absolutely have to do that. Just like to get Luka, AD, yeah, thank you, AD, but I'll drive you to the airport myself. Same thing with Austin. Thank you, Austin, but here, hop in the backseat of this Escalade, and I'll take you myself. I'll take you there myself, right? That's how that works. Love you, Austin, but if he's available, and that's tricky because remember, Austin is an unrestricted free agent. So does Milwaukee entertain that? You know, if he doesn't give a commitment to them, do they do that? I say yes, because if you don't do Austin, it's going to be just expiring contracts that you're getting, you know, from the Lakers, you know, like Rui and Gabe and Maxi Kleber, all that. So worst case scenario, if Austin does walk, it's the same thing. It's an expiring contract. But I think you have to take that chance. You know, that's just something. Let's get them in our building and let's try to win them over, you know, in these months that we have. So absolutely Austin would be included in that deal. There's no way that they'll do that. But if Giannis is available, you know, there's there's many other deals there. Like we talked about with New Orleans, Milwaukee, they're not a free agent destination. So having cap space, open books, I don't think that benefits them. Now, obviously, you're not paying the luxury tax and all that. So that benefits the owner. But, yeah, they're not a free agent destination. You're not going to get guys. You're not getting marquee free agents to come there. So it's not like, oh, keep our cap space clear so we can land this guy or land that guy. That's not what that is. They're a draft team, right? They build their squad through the draft or through trade, right? Now, they had Giannis there through the draft, and he blossomed into one of the best players in the NBA. And then, yeah, that opened the door to becoming a free agent destination. But a lot of the moves that they did, it was via trade. They went out and made trades to bring in another superstar in Dame and whoever else, you know, to pair with Giannis. So, again, the only way I think Giannis is a Laker or ends up on the Lakers is if that's where he wants to be. If he tells Milwaukee, I want to be a Laker, then I think Milwaukee will oblige to that and they'll get a deal done. But, again, in no way, shape, or form do I think that deal gets done without AR. So we'll talk more about that, but I do believe Giannis is going to be on the move. Again, it's hard to do a trade like that because there's just so many moving pieces. You're going to have to send out so many more guys because of Giannis's contract. You're going to have to send out 4 or 5 guys. That's difficult to do, you know, mid-December or even at the trade deadline. So this thing may push out into the summer, which benefits the Lakers because in the summer, again, they'll have more draft picks. They'll have multiple draft picks available. They'll have 3 draft picks at their discretion, technically, right? One of them is a player, but they can select the player and move them on draft night. But they'll have much more to offer. Now, what they won't have is expiring contracts. So that's the catch-22 here. They have their expiring contracts right now, so they can stack up those contracts to get to Giannis's salary. But in the summer, it's going to be more difficult. But they may have the cap space to trade in because they'll have all those guys gone, and you'll have LeBron's $52 million coming off the books, which, by the way, I do believe this is LeBron's final season with the Lakers. I will say that. But they'll have that $52 million off the books, plus all those expiring contracts. So they're projected to be a cap team. I don't know what the exact number is on that cap, but maybe they can trade Giannis into that cap space because you're able to do that as well. So you'll have the picks to give up. You'll have AR still to give up. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. That thing may get drawn out into the summer. So we'll see how that all plays out. But again, that's the only way I believe that Giannis becomes a Laker. I'm not going to say it's not possible because you got Luka. And I'm not delusional when I say this. You got Luka. But again, if he wants to play in LA, I think Milwaukee will oblige to that. So that's why I say that it is possible. Likely, no, but if I had to put a number on it, like 35%, again, it's all based on Giannis. But what does give me hope is, a lot of people would say, oh, Giannis doesn't care about the big market, which in today's world, it's true. You don't have to be in a big market anymore. It's not like the 90s or whatever. You don't have to be in a big market to capitalize endorsement. They come to you, and they've gone to Giannis. He's a Nike signature athlete. He has his own shoe. He has so many other commercials. He's in a new commercial now. I don't even remember what it is, but I was like, that's Giannis. Yeah, they're going to come to him when he's a superstar, he's a global superstar the way he is. They're going to come to you. But I still think being in the big market does matter. As true as what I just said is, the big market, you're still going to make bigger money in the big markets. And a lot of people was saying that Giannis isn't a big market guy. He doesn't care about that. Well, if he has to be traded to the Knicks, then he's open to playing in a big market, because that's the biggest market in America and one of the biggest markets in the entire world. So he's open to playing in a big market. So what is LA? A big market. And to be honest, if I'm Giannis, playing with Luka would be a top priority. I think personally, if I'm him, I think the place that I would want to play in the most would probably be Denver, playing with Jokic. Because me personally, I think Jokic is the best player in the world, and Giannis and Jokic, I don't think you're stopping that. If you can, now there's flaws to that squad. You need shooting around them, defense around them, because the older Giannis gets, he's going to fall off more and more defensively. But I think you figure all that out. If you have those two, I think that's nucleus. But right after him, I'd want to play with Luka. And probably above. That's just me personally. I'm just that. I love Jokic that much. But, Luka, a point guard who can get me the ball. Yeah, a playmaker who can get me the ball like that and make things easier for me. Yeah, he's definitely up there. He is definitely up there. And then after that, playing in the New York market, right? I think those are my three options. If I'm again, this is me speaking. If I'm Giannis, I want to go to Denver, LA, or New York, right? And New York, they kind of had the opportunity. They kind of messed it up. So I don't know what a trade looks like, what a Giannis trade is going to look like. Obviously, you want a superstar back, but if you can't get that, you want young players or budding stars. And again, the Lakers had that in Austin. So again, I say 35%, but that can climb. I'm just talking about right now, today. That could climb. All right, we talked about enough. I'm finna get out of here. If you hung on me throughout the entire video, you watched the video, let me know your thoughts on what I said. And yeah, the Lakers are back at it. Again, we talked about their schedule before we get out of here. We talked about how easy the schedule has been. Well, it's going to pick up a bit even this week. Their remaining schedule this week, they're in Toronto. By the time this video gets edited and uploaded, it's probably Thursday, so it might be Lakers game day. The Lakers play Toronto tonight. So you have that. And then on Friday, it's another back-to-back. All these back-to-backs. I'm glad they're getting them out of the way, though. So we won't have them later in the year. So I guess it's smart there. But after that, tomorrow we're in Boston. We are in Boston. Normally that trip is in January. I don't know how that trip got moved all the way up to December. That's crazy, man. That's a trip that I normally want to go to, but we're too close to Christmas right now. But yeah, Boston, and then two games right there. We talked about having those physical, athletic wings, that can get up and be aggressive and defend. Well, you're going to get that in Toronto tomorrow night. They have that in Ingram and everybody else that they got there. So that's going to be a test. And then Boston, of course, they have that. So two tough games there, Toronto and Boston. So let's see what the Lakers can do. Let's go on the road and let's get both of those. Again, it's going to be difficult to back-to-back against Boston, but let's see what we got there. And then next week, we get an NBA Cup matchup against the Spurs. That's the quarterfinals NBA Cup matchup. So we get another opportunity to see how good the Lakers there. So right there, those three games are big games. And then if the Lakers beat San Antonio, then they're headed to Vegas. And in the semis, it looks like they'll play OKC, right? In the semis, they'll play OKC. So right there, those could be the next four games. I don't know who they play in between Boston and San Antonio, because the NBA Cup game, I think, is not until the 10th. So there's another game in there somewhere. I didn't even write it down. But Toronto, Boston, San Antonio, and OKC could be four of the Lakers' next marquee matchups, right? So there it is, man. It gets good. It gets good. The schedule gets tougher. So like I said, this all will play itself out. But those are 4 big games that they can have in the month of December. And then you add 2 more big games against good teams, the Suns, a rematch against the Suns on the 23rd. That's on the schedule. And then, of course, the Christmas Day matchup is against Houston. So that's going to be a huge measuring stick, a marquee game. Everybody's going to be tuned in after we open our gifts and all that stuff. That's going to be a fun matchup against a marquee team, an elite team. And then on the 30th, right before New Year's, the 30th, you got Detroit. So that's the Lakers schedule. We talked about it may have been soft to start out. Well, you have Toronto, Boston, San Antonio, OKC potentially, NBA Cup, depending on how that goes. The Suns, Houston, and Detroit. Those are 7 teams that the Lakers may face. Well, 6 of them are guaranteed because the Spurs game is guaranteed, the quarterfinals. But the OKC, again, that's predicated on the Lakers winning. They'll play OKC. And then whoever comes out of the East in the NBA Cup. So, that's 8 potential games there that the Lakers could play against top teams. I don't know what the East NBA Cup looks like, but I don't know who that team could be that they could face in the finals. But so again, like I said, this stuff will play itself out, and we can measure ourselves against those teams. But if they don't see OKC, if they are eliminated from the Cup, then you have 6 games there against those 6 teams. In Toronto, Boston, San Antonio, the Suns, Houston, and Detroit. Those are guaranteed matchups. So buckle up, Lakers Nation. Buckle up. The season doesn't really start until you're 20 games in, until after Thanksgiving. Well, Thanksgiving has passed. And now 20 games have passed. So here we go, man. Let's get after it, Lakers Nation. Let's get after it. Again, thanks for joining into the Lowdown. I'll tap in with you guys later. I'm your host, LOE. Purple and gold till we die. Purple and gold we ride. I bleed purple. My heart beats gold. It is and always will be. Lakers over everything. Go Lakers, go Lakers, go Lakers. Get that W tonight across the border in Toronto. Get that W. And then go in there and let's beat some Celtics ass. F Boston. Let's beat some Celtics ass, man. Enjoy your time, man. I'll tap in with you guys probably Saturday after Toronto and Boston games, and we'll see what's up. Peace.